Hello, everyone. This is Arnold, reading from my home in Newark, and welcome again to the reading of Winnie the Pooh. And got my little Pooh Bear here on my shoulder, and we're reading Chapter 4, in which Eeyore loses his tail and Pooh finds one. So it sounds like we're introduced to a new character, Eeyore, in this. So let us begin. Old gray donkey Eeyore stood by himself in a thistly corner of the forest, his front feet well apart, his head on one side, and thought about things. And here you see Eeyore in that thistly part of the forest. Sometimes he thought sadly to himself, why? And sometimes he thought, wherefore? And sometimes he thought, inasmuch as which? And sometimes, I think Bear's going to sit down a little bit. And sometimes he thought, inasmuch as which? And sometimes he didn't quite know what he was thinking. So when Winnie the Pooh came stomping along, Eeyore was very glad to be able to stop thinking for a little while in order to say, how do you do? In a gloomy manner. And how are you? Said Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore shook his head from side to side. Not very. How? I don't seem to have felt at all how for a long time. Dear, dear, said Pooh. I'm sorry about that. Let's have a look at you. Eeyore stood there, gazing sadly at the ground, and Winnie the Pooh walked all around him. Why, what's happened to your tail? He said in surprise. And here's the picture of Winnie the Pooh looking where Eeyore's tail should be. But there's no tail there on the donkey. What has happened to it? Said Eeyore. It isn't there. Are you sure? And there's Eeyore looking all around. Oops, to see his tail. And there is not one there. Well, either the tail is there or it isn't there. You can't make a mistake about it. And yours isn't there. Then what is? Nothing. Let's have a look, said Eeyore. And he turned around slowly to the place where his tail had been a little while ago, and then finding that he couldn't catch it up, he turned around the other way until he came back to where he was at first. And then he put his head down and looked between his front legs and said at last with a long, sad sigh, I believe you're right. Of course I'm right, said Pooh. That accounts for a good deal, said Eeyore. It explains everything. No wonder. Must have left it somewhere, said Winnie the Pooh. Somebody must have taken it, said Eeyore. How like them, he added after a long silence. Pooh felt he ought to say something helpful about it, but he didn't quite know what, so he decided to do something helpful instead. Eeyore, he said solemnly, I, Winnie the Pooh, will help find your tail for you. Thank you, Pooh, answered Eeyore. You're a real friend, not like some. So Winnie the Pooh went off to find Eeyore's tail. And here's another picture of Eeyore looking for his tail in between his legs, and it's not there. What do you think happened to Eeyore's tail? It was a fine spring morning in the forest as he started out. Little soft clouds played happily in the blue sky, skipping from time to time in front of the sun, as if they had come to put it out, and then sliding away suddenly so that the next might have his turn. Through them and between them the sun shone bravely, and a copse which had worn its furs all the year round seemed old and dowdy now beside the new green lace which the beeches had put on so prettily. Through the copse and spiny marched Bear, down open slopes of gorse and heather, over rocky beds of streams, up steep banks of sandstone into the heather again, and so at last, tired and hungry, to the 100-acre wood, for it was in a 100-acre wood that Owl lived. Wow, it sounds like spring is coming to the 100-acre forest to see all the green that Winnie the Pooh is walking through, just like we have outside now. And if anybody knows anything about anything, said Bear to himself, it's Owl, who knows something about something. He said, or my name's not Winnie the Pooh, which it is. So there you are. Owl lived at the Chestnuts, an old world residence of great charm, which was grander than anybody else's, or so it seemed to Bear, because it had both a knocker and a bell pull. Underneath the knocker was a notice which rang, "Please ring if an answer is required." Whoa. Underneath the bell pull, there was a notice which said, "Please choke if an answer is not required." These notices had been written by Christopher Robin, who was the only one in the forest who could spell. For Owl, wise though he was in many ways, able to read and write and spell his own name, W-O-L. Is that how you spell Owl? W-O-L? I don't think he knows how to spell his name. Yet somehow went all to pieces over delicate words like measles and buttered toast. And there's Winnie the Pooh going up to Owl's house in the tree, and you see the bell pull, and you see the knocker, and you see the signs. Well, you can't read them because it's a little too small. Winnie the Pooh read the two notices very carefully, first from left to right, and afterwards, in case he missed something, from right to left. Then, to make quite sure, he knocked and pulled the knocker, and he pulled and knocked the bell rope, and he called in a very loud voice, "Owl, I require an answer. It's Bear speaking." And the door opened and Owl looked out. "Hello, Pooh. How's things?" "Terrible and sad," said Pooh. "Of course, Eeyore, who's a friend of mine, has lost his tail, and he's moping about it. So could you very kindly tell me how to find it for him?" "Well," said Owl, "the customary procedure in such cases is as follows." "What does customary proceed cake mean?" said Pooh. "I'm a bear of very little brain, and long words bother me." "It means a thing to do." "As long as it means that, I don't mind," said Pooh. "The thing to do is as follows. First issue a reward, then—" "Just a moment," said Pooh, holding up his paw. "What do we do to this? What were you saying? You sneezed just as you were going to tell me." "I didn't sneeze." "Oh, yes, you did, Owl." "Excuse me, Pooh, I didn't. You can't sneeze without knowing it." "Well, you can't know it without something having been sneezed." "Well, I said, first issue a reward." "You're doing it again," said Pooh sadly. "A reward?" said Owl very loudly. "We write a notice to say that we'll give a large something to anybody who finds Eeyore's tail." I see, said Pooh, nodding his head. "Talking about large somethings," he went on dreamingly. I generally have a small something about now, about this time in the morning, and he looked wistfully at the cupboard in the corner of Owl's parlor. Just a mouthful of condensed milk or whatnot with perhaps a lick of honey. Well then, said Owl, we write out this notice, and we put it up all over the forest. A lick of honey, murmured Bear to himself, or not, as the case may be, and he gave a deep sigh and tried very hard to listen to what Owl was saying. But Owl went on, using longer and longer words, until at last he came back to where he started and explained that the person to write out this notice was Christopher Robin. It was he who wrote the ones on my front door for me. Did you see them, Pooh? For some time now, Pooh had been saying yes and no, in turn with his eyes shut to all that Owl was saying. And having said yes, yes, last time he said no, not at all, now without really knowing what Owl was talking about. Did you ever do that? Your mind is somewhere else and people are talking and just say yes, no, no, yes. That's what Pooh was doing. Didn't you see them? Said Owl, a little surprised. Come and look at them now. So they went outside, and Pooh looked at the knocker and the notice below it. And he looked at the bell rope and the notice below it. And the more he looked at the bell rope, the more he felt that he had seen something like it somewhere else, some time before. And here is Pooh and Owl talking in Owl's home. Handsome bell rope, isn't it? Said Owl. Pooh nodded. Reminds me of something, he said, but I can't think. Where did you get it? What do you think that bell rope might be? We'll find out in a minute. I just came across it in the forest. It was hanging over a bush, and I thought at first somebody lived there, so I rang it, and nothing happened. And then I rang it again very loudly, and it came off in my hand. Here you see Pooh and Owl looking at the bell rope that Pooh thinks looks very much something that he's seen before. And as nobody seemed to want it, I took it home and, Owl, said Pooh solemnly, you made a mistake. Someone did want it. Ooh, Eeyore, my dear friend Eeyore. He was fond of it. Fond of it? Attached to it, said Winnie the Pooh sadly. And so with these words, he unhooked it and carried it back to Eeyore. And when Christopher Robin had nailed it in the right place again, Eeyore frisked about the forest, waving his tail so happily that Winnie the Pooh came over all funny and had to hurry home for a little snack of something to sustain him. And wiping his mouth, half an hour afterwards, he sang to himself proudly, Who found the tail? I, said Pooh, at 1:45. Only it was 11:15, really. I found the tail. And there's Christopher Robin putting the tail back on to Eeyore. And then there's Eeyore looking at his tail and dancing all around, so happy that his tail is back. That is the end of chapter 4, in which Eeyore loses his tail, and Pooh found that Owl was using it as a door pole and returns it back to Eeyore, who is so happy to find his tail again. Well, that's it till next week. Hope to see you again. Have a great week.